Alright guys, welcome back to the Banknote Boy Variety channel. Today's video we're going to be doing is we're going to be showcasing a new piece of currency that I've bought for the collection here. So, I haven't bought money for the collection in a while. I mean, I have gotten some new money, but I haven't bought it, off of any sites directly in a while. So it's just nice to do that every once in a while just to get something new for the collection. So the note that we got here is the Yellow Seal North Africa silver certificate here. This is another World War II emergency note. So before we get explaining into this, I just want to clarify some things first. So I may or may not have explained in the video where I showcased the Brown Seal Hawaii note, which is the other emergency note, that my whole purpose of buying this was to start a typeset of U.S. small size $1 notes. Now, I'm mainly starting with the main series. I'm not going into like each series of Federal Reserve notes, like the series in 1963, and then I'm going to go to 1969, and then I'm mostly starting with the silver certificate series, the more common things, the red seal, things like that. Well, my plan was to start a typeset of my liking, and including what I feel fit. So really, a typeset would be all of those things down the line, but I'm starting with the more expensive stuff first. So this Yellow Seal note was the next step up in that typeset. So as you may know, in case you don't know, a typeset in a currency collection, or to illustrating the type or anything, is any series of notes or any category of notes or coins you want to collect. So if we're gonna go into the coin category. If we're gonna start a collection of set up a typeset of barber dimes, that would be a typeset. So or of dimes, a typeset of dimes. So you go as far as early in dimes as you can get it, and then you go all the way up, and then you see what you can do, or you assemble a typeset of U.S. fractional and postage currency. So that's sort of what I'm doing here. Now, more advanced collectors that have more money and maybe more time for the hobby, they may try to go for the obviously way beyond me goal of getting a typeset of all the $1 notes. So that's including large size, going from the series of 1862 legal tender notes all the way up to the series 2017A Federal Reserve notes that we know and use today. So now we're going to get into explaining the note. So when I was saying emergency note, so these are the two types of emergency notes that were used during the Second World War. And another thing I want to clarify real quick before I get into that is when I was using this book on when I was showing that $50 note that I got, I was looking and I was showing this range of years next to the Treasurer and Secretary of the Treasury, because this book, obviously, values are classified by the Treasurer and Secretary of the Treasury on the note. So that's what series the note is. And I was looking to the years next to them, and I was thinking, well, I was saying that that's when those notes were printed, in the range of those years, and that wasn't correct. That was actually the years that those two were in office, those two, the Treasurer and the Secretary of the Treasury. So those were the years that those two people were in office. So kind of made a mistake there, but we will not be doing that in this video. Obviously, because those years aren't correct, 1934 to 1945 for Julian Morgenthau, because then why would these be printed in 1934 if they were used in World War II? So, since that was 39 to 45, so yeah. So I kind of caught myself there. Won't be doing that from future videos, but sadly that's just the mistake that I had to learn from. So back to the explaining. So emergency notes of the Second World War. So there were two areas in which these were used on. So obviously the Hawaii area in the Pacific, and then just to explain something about this that I didn't explain in the video that pertained to this note. Obviously for this one in Hawaii, That was a U.S. island. It was a state of the U.S. Well, it wasn't a state until, I think it was in 1912. I think it became a state. So it was a state during World War II, and as we may know, we probably all heard about this, Pearl Harbor, Japanese bombing. In Hawaii, for some people that may not know where it is, I'm going to grab my globe real quick. Hawaii is actually not anywhere that close to the U.S., really. It's actually right above Australia, I believe. So can't pinpoint it exactly on here, but it's around here somewhere. Yeah. It's in this area somewhere around here. And so that area in World War II, that was quite dominated by Japan. So as Japan expanded its empire into the Pacific, so that was through southern Asia, so the countries of Burma, Thailand, they also went through the islands around Australia. So some of the areas like New Guinea, New Britain, the Solomon Islands, those were quite ravaged by the Japanese. They had the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, so the Federated States of Micronesia, all those areas, and even Hawaii, and Hawaii was in that area where that heightened was, and they thought, well, they could knock the U.S. out of that area, and so I guess, I don't know if the Japanese occupied Hawaii or whatever after they bombed it, but obviously we know that these were sent to Hawaii to be used by the troops there, and these had a special purpose. They weren't like the silver certificates back home with the blue seals, because these had a special purpose. If they were captured by the enemy, they could be repudiated, and they would be worthless on world markets if their enemy tried to sell them or exchange them for other forms of their own currency. So, the other emergency note, the yellow seal one, was for the same purpose, but in North Africa during the Nazi occupation. So, let's dive deeper into that. So, North Africa was largely occupied by Italy during the war, and before the war. So Italy had various colonies in the countries of Libya and the northern African continent. So that would be basically all this top. And all this on this globe isn't all desert. It's just, if you look at the legend, the sort of orange desert color indicates that it's about 2,000 meters high or above sea level. So this is all sea level colors. They're not like desert and forest. So this is about the Sahara Desert, really, right here. It runs from Morocco clear down to South Sudan, or down to I think it just goes through Sudan into Eritrea. But it basically runs like that. And so that's what North Africa is known for, is the Sahara Desert. So obviously Italy's right here in the Mediterranean Sea. And so while they were having some issues in Italy, they weren't fighting too well. And basically, if we dive into World War II, we will know about the Tripartite Pact that Hitler signed with Italy. It was signed between Mussolini, leader of Italy, Hirohito, Emperor of Japan, and then Hitler of the Nazi Party in Germany. So basically, what happened there is Italy's having some issues fighting in North Africa. They just weren't good fighters. They tried to attack Greece, and the Greeks pushed them clear back into Albania. The Germans had to send troops to help them then. Well, they had to send troops to North Africa. So that was the whole fighting in North Africa campaign throughout 1941 and 1942. So that was the Battle of El Alamein at Tobruk. We know the commander, the German side, Erwin Rommel. He fought the British there. the U.S. landed in North Africa to fight, so that was at the Kasserine Pass in those battles. So basically these notes were sent there for the same exact reason. If they came into the hands of the Nazis, they could be repudiated, be worthless on world markets, just like the Hawaii notes for the Japanese. So that's what happened there. And then obviously the Germans were eventually pushed out of North Africa, and then we took over that, and then they were pushed off the Eastern Front by the Russians, and then that's basically how the war ended, because they were drove back to Germany. So, now to the numismatic part of this note. So we have the yellow seal. These can be seen on gold certificates. They may be slightly more gold, but this is the only note in numismatic history, or in U.S. history, that does not have the serial numbers the same color of the seal. Every single note that in this entire United States of America currency issuance, from interest-bearing notes or the legal tender notes all the way up to the notes we use today, have the serial numbers the same color as the seal. So this one just retains and even the gold certificates with the gold, they have a gold serial number. So I have no idea why that was. I'm guessing it's just a new design change for this note. But yeah, that's actually one of the striking differences of this note, is that blue seal, serial number, and yellow seal. So that's definitely different. Now this note has signatures written on it and words, and has an arrow pointing to the seal. So I can't really get anybody to decipher it because most of the paper's worn off, and it's kind of hard to read. So there's something on the back. It says "Good in America." I don't know, but I'm hoping it was signed by U.S. soldiers or some sort of soldiers, or maybe it was just signed by whoever I bought it from. I don't know, but yeah. So I have no idea what that says, but it's got some signatures on it, some writing. It's in pretty good condition, maybe VF to EF condition, so it's not in the lower grades at least. But what's neat is that it's a piece of history, and it was most likely in North Africa, just like this one was most likely in Hawaii. So check the serial numbers, they match. Series 1935A, just like the Hawaii note, signatures of Julian and Morgenthau. Values are on the back. Let's go to the back first. On the back, just like the notes at the time, no motto, "In God We Trust," added yet. And this one looks like it was cut off of a sheet differently, due to the wide margins and the thin one. There's some varieties with that on notes, but it's not really concerning. Nobody's really too concerned about it on this note. Also, compared to this, we notice the green, very rich green color. Doesn't appear on all older notes because some of it's faded. They were printed with much thicker green ink. Obviously, a difference they have is this says Hawaii, has a Hawaii overprint. That's what distinguishes it as a Hawaii emergency note. This obviously doesn't say North Africa anywhere on it, but yeah. So another thing I want to point out is on these older notes, the plate numbers were much larger. So the plate number can be found down here. It's a 4-digit number on this one. Usually, with our paper money today, it usually never exceeds a 3-digit number, if that. So this one's 2788, and on most of my silver certificates, they have very large print plate numbers. So I'm guessing it's just because they had different technology back then, and that's why. Values, they bring a couple bucks, but usually only in the higher grades. So for my book, about $500, and that's in uncirculated 65 gem condition and above. you're not going to be finding that in circulation, obviously, and if you're buying it, you're paying that or more, obviously, because if you're buying it from a wholesale seller or a retail seller, they got to make more money. So they're going to be selling that for more than that, or for a different price. Not everybody goes by these books. And then from the other research I did, for the condition this is in, which I'm going to put that around VF to EF, 75 to 85 bucks. VG8, which is the lowest condition this will go, about $25. So from the other research I did, it said about the same. The other said about $25 to $50. I think he gets a little more than that, but yeah, probably about $75 to $85. This is a nice little note. I actually got it for a reasonable price. I'm guessing the person either didn't know who it was. It seemed like they were numismatists, so maybe they did and they were just trying to get rid of it, or they were going by different pricing. I don't know. I'm not going to specify what I pay for it or who I bought it from or what site I was on or anything. But, yeah. So, nice little note to add to the collection. In my collection book, it's going to be right above here. So, I'll have them out of here right now so I can move them. This is where it's going to be. In this top slot where the Hawaii note used to be, and the Hawaii note's going to be under. And then our 35A silver certificate. The notes that we still have yet to buy, the major notes we still have yet to buy are the Series 1934 Blue Seal Silver Certificates, the Series 1928 Blue Seal Silver Certificate, and then a Series 1928 Red Seal Legal Tender Note. I'm kind of getting a little worried about that because those are a little more pricey because they're more elusive, the red seals. So, but I think I've secured maybe one, but that may not be for a long while because I don't like to spend too much money on this. This is probably the only thing I'm going to buy for a while, probably this year. But yeah, so it's a nice little thing that we're going to add to our collection. And that's going to be it for today's video, guys. So please like and subscribe as it helps out the Bang Boy Variety channel. Stay tuned for more Resistance story and other videos that we're going to be making.